All right, we're on another edition of the Unfiltered Podcast coming to you November 28th, 2023, coming to you literally 11 o'clock at nighttime. You look at the screen here, we have this is going to be the final playoff rankings, college football playoff rankings, because the next time we do this again, next week, on Sunday, in fact, will be the official playoff rankings as we get to conference championship weekend, this coming Saturday. Um, there's been shakeup, obviously, in the rankings, as we said. Ohio State, Michigan playing. 1 and 2 remain unchanged. Of course, Michigan. I'm sorry, Michigan was number 3 last week, so one spot. So Ohio State losing, moved on to number 6. So 1 Georgia, 2 Michigan. 3's Washington, of course. Still, they went from 4 to 3 from last week to this week. 4, Florida State moved up 1 spot from 5 to 4. Oregon moves up now from 6 to 5, and Ohio State now is down to 6. Running out the other 2 teams here, Texas is 7, Bama's 8, and I mentioned those teams too because even though those teams have the longest shots to get into the playoff, they are still in the mix. Oh, they'll probably give them a 5-10% chance depending on what happens this weekend. Um, Obviously, I said before last week and week before that too. Also, I feel like Georgia is the only team at this point that can lose this weekend against Alabama and still feel like they're a virtual lock into the playoff no matter what. Michigan, you would say that, but given the opponent that they're playing, Iowa, and first on the 23-point favorites and the over is 35 points, I would think that if Michigan for some damn reason loses to Iowa, which for the record ain't going to happen, let's be real. But if it does happen, I think not only would that hurt Michigan's chance of staying in the top 4, I also think I think that the committee will probably penalize them based on what's going on, everything outside of football with the Jim Harbaugh situation and the sign stealing stuff. So if I'm Michigan, I still take this game seriously as though you're playing, a serious team like you played Ohio State last week, for example. So, but I don't see it happening. Michigan's going to take care of business. Washington, Oregon play in the Pac-12 championship this weekend. Actually on Friday rather. So that game will have massive consequence. The winner of that game obviously will be a lock into the playoff. Certainly Washington. Well, both teams will get a bit of a lock, but certainly Washington will be unbeaten and they'll get a lock in. Oregon, to me, looks like the best team here of the 6. I would say Oregon is playing probably the best football of anybody here right now. They're the hottest team right now in college football, in my opinion. Georgia obviously is there, but Georgia's had some moments this year where they look kind of shaky, but Oregon looks scary. They look very scary. Now comes to Florida State. Florida State is the 4 teams here. Florida State is the one team of the 4 that looks most vulnerable. Number 1, they've had some pretty, let's just say, not tough schedule, although they do have 3 teams that they've beaten this year, currently in the top 25 of these rankings. Clemson 23, I think LSU 13 now, and they'll have Louisville on their belt if they win this game, obviously. Florida State has to, I believe, still look. I think if they win against Louisville, they are most likely to get in the playoff. I'm not going to say guaranteed because I do think. Here's the thing. I'm a Knowles fan. I'm going to lay down the Knowles fanhood for a second. The unbiased nature here. I don't think Florida State right now is as good as any of these 6 teams. I think any of these 6 teams play, any of these 5 teams around them play Florida State. They're better than Florida State. I actually think, to be honest with you, a case made for Texas and Alabama better than Florida State right now. But I also think there's a premium being made here now on Florida State being unbeaten. If they get to Louisville this weekend, it's going to be hard for the committee to look away from Florida State, who is 13-0. Okay, you're going to have most likely 3 to 4 teams unbeaten. I find it hard for the committee to turn it from Florida State. Now, I could see a scenario here now too, also where Georgia wins, Michigan wins, right? They take care of business, of course, but they should. And then Oregon wins against Washington, but that game is a lot closer. And given the fact that spread right now, as I checked it now, that Oregon and Washington spread, even though Washington beat Oregon this year, Oregon's lone losses against Washington, Oregon is still the favorite. Oregon opened up as a 7.5 point favorite, balloons to 9.5 on Sunday, and as of this recording today, Oregon is now a 10-point favorite over Washington. If that game is close, and say Florida State beats Louisville, I do think but in a close fashion, say they lose by 3 points or less. I do think there's a possibility that both Pac-12 teams get in. Now, another conundrum here too also is this: let's say Florida State loses to Louisville, and say Oregon wins. There's also a possibility that Texas, if they win and win in good fashion against Oklahoma State, they can have a chance to get it in also too. But Texas also needs Alabama to win as well too to help their strength of schedule, their strength of case. In other words, there's still chaos potentially this week to happen. Now, that being said, if Georgia does his job, if Michigan does his job, and Florida State does his job, most likely those three teams get in, and then the winner of the Washington Oregon team or Oregon game on Friday will get in as well too. But there's still chaos to come, possible chaos to come. Ohio State, I think, really losing on Saturday gets hurt here too, especially. There's still a path for Ohio State to get in, but I think given the fact that most of these conference championship games, I would say, are pretty much the favorites or should be able to win. I still put Oregon Washington as a side, as a asterisk, and I put Louisville and Florida State as asterisk too, also because Florida State does have Jordan Travis. If Jordan Travis was healthy in this game, that's right because Louisville wouldn't be 2.5 points. It'd be about 9 or 10. But because he's not there playing this week, you have to give Louisville a fighter's chance here to spoil it for Florida State. But all I know is that this week will be this is going to be a fascinating weekend. Friday, of course, Pac-12 championship, and then Saturday, of course, the rest of the games round out this week. And again, this has been a very fun college football season. I really enjoyed it. And unfortunately, fortunately, we're gonna find out officially where these teams stand after this Saturday on Sunday at noon. By the way, I love Selection Sunday. This is also the very last time in I think the 10 years we've done the playoff rankings, the 14 rankings. We're going to go to 12 teams and start next year, which will be fun. Looking forward to that. But yeah, we should be a very, very interesting situation this weekend. So again, there's your top 6 right now for this week. The final playoff rankings before we get to Selection Sunday. It's Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Washington 3, Florida State 4, and then 5 and 6 Oregon, Ohio State, and of course I'll mention it just because they're still in the mix. 7 Texas, 8 Alabama. So again, that's it for me. And until the next Unfiltered podcast, we'll talk to you guys there.